Look at your phone. There it is, right there on the glowing screen. 5 digits, a 1, a 0, and a comma. $10,000. For the first time in your life, your checking account actually has breathing room. You didn't inherit this. You didn't win the biological lottery. You bled for this. You worked the standard 40-hour week. And then you came home, drank a stale cup of coffee, and grinded out a side hustle in the pitch black until 2 in the morning. You traded your sleep, your weekends, and your sanity. But it finally worked. You're officially ahead of 60% of Americans who can't even cover a $1,000 emergency. But here is the brutal, unspoken reality of the modern economy. Getting to 10 grand was the easy part. What you do next will permanently dictate the rest of your life. Because right now, you're standing at a highly engineered, deeply psychological crossroads. Your brain is telling you that you deserve a reward. The system is begging you to spend it. Option 1. Renting a house. It starts innocently enough. You're sitting on your worn-out couch in your cramped one-bedroom apartment. The neighbor's dog is barking through the paper-thin drywall. The faucet is dripping. You open your phone, and you look at your banking app again. $10,000. Your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine. For the first time in your adult life, you feel a dangerous emotion. Entitlement. You worked hard. You suffered. Don't you deserve to live like a successful person? Don't you deserve to wake up somewhere quiet? You open Zillow. It's a uniquely American pastime. Scrolling through real estate you have no business looking at. But this time is different. This time, you actually have cash. You filter the search. Not apartments, houses. You find it. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in a quiet, tree-lined suburb. It has a 2-car garage, granite countertops, a backyard with a patio. It is the physical manifestation of the American dream. The rent is $3,000 a month. Your mind immediately starts doing the justification math. I make $4,000 a month from my job, plus another $1,500 from the side hustle. If I just cut back on eating out, I can easily afford the $3,000. You ignore the fact that rent should never be more than 30% of your income. You're running on pure emotion. You schedule a tour. The leasing agent opens the front door, and the smell of fresh paint and polished hardwood hits your lungs. The space is massive. It is completely silent. The agent hands you the application. They need first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit to hand over the keys. $3,000, plus $3,000, plus $3,000, $9,000. You go to the bank. You stand at the teller window and ask for a cashier's check. They print it out, and you hand it over. In a single signature, your $10,000, the money that took you 18 months of blood, sweat, and absolute misery to save, evaporates. Your net worth drops from 10 grand back down to $1,000 in exactly 4 seconds. But you don't care, because you have the keys. You move in. You invite your friends over for a housewarming party. They walk through the front door, their eyes wide. They tell you how proud they are of you. They ask how you manage to pull this off. For one night, standing in your massive new kitchen with a drink in your hand, you feel like a king. You feel rich. Then, Monday morning arrives, and the illusion shatters. You wake up in the master bedroom, and you realize something terrifying. The house is empty. Your old apartment furniture barely fills the living room. The 2 extra bedrooms are echoing, hollow boxes. You have a two-car garage with only one dented Honda Civic sitting inside. The societal pressure begins to crush you. You can't have a house this nice and keep a stained futon in the living room. So, you go to a furniture store. You don't have the cash because you gave it all to the landlord. So, you finance a $3,000 sectional couch at 24% interest. You put a massive flat-screen TV on a credit card. Month 2 begins. The first wave of envelopes arrives in the mail. When you lived in an apartment, heating 500 square feet cost $40 a month. You're now heating 2,500 square feet. The electric and gas bill hits you for $450. The water bill arrives. It's an extra $100. The grass in the backyard is growing. You don't own a lawnmower, so you hire a landscaping crew. That's another $150 a month. Suddenly, the math you did in your head isn't working anymore. Your $3,000 rent has mutated into $4,000 of monthly carrying costs. You're bleeding cash. You start waking up an hour earlier to work the side hustle. You stop going out with the friends who told you how proud they were. You're exhausted. Your lower back constantly aches. The dark circles under your eyes return. You're working 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. But you aren't saving any money. Every single dollar you print is immediately consumed by the house. Let's zoom out and look at what you actually bought with your $10,000. You didn't buy freedom. You bought a more expensive treadmill. You signed a legal contract that legally obligates you to pay someone else $36,000 a year, just for the right to sleep inside their drywall. And here is the most devastating part of the trap. While you are destroying your physical health working 2 jobs to make the rent, your landlord is sleeping peacefully. Your rent check pays his mortgage. Your rent check pays his property taxes. Because of you, his property is slowly being paid off, building his equity and increasing his net worth. You spent $10,000 of your own money to make a rich man richer. And at the end of the 12-month lease, you don't own a single brick of that house. The landlord sends you an email. Property values have gone up in the area. Your rent is increasing by $400 a month next year. You're trapped. You don't have another $9,000 to move somewhere else. You look at your phone. You open your banking app. The balance is exactly where it was 2 years ago. 0. Option 2. Saving money in bank. You look at the $10,000 on your screen. You think about the massive house in the suburbs. You think about the leather couches and the high utility bills. And you say, no. You're smarter than that. You know the statistics. You know that one medical emergency, one blown transmission, one bad month can wipe you out completely. The trauma of being broke has permanently rewired your brain. You're terrified of going back to 0. So, you choose safety. You choose option 2. You walk into a brick-and-mortar bank with marble floors and bulletproof glass. You sit across from a smiling banker in a cheap suit, and you deposit the entire $10,000 into a standard savings account. The banker shakes your hand. He tells you that you're making a highly responsible financial decision. He tells you your money is insured by the federal government. It is locked in a vault. It is completely safe. You walk out of the bank and you take a deep breath. For the first time in your life, you have a safety net. If you lose your job tomorrow, you can survive for 6 months. You go back to your cramped apartment. You lie down on your old mattress, and you sleep a deep, unbroken sleep. But while you're sleeping, the math begins to work against you. What the smiling banker did not tell you is that a bank is not a storage unit. A bank is a business. The exact second you walked out of those glass doors, the bank took your $10,000 and immediately lent it to someone else. They lent it to the guy in option 1 so he could buy his financed furniture at 24% interest. They lent it to a massive corporation at 8% interest. The bank is making thousands of dollars a year off your hard-earned money. And in return, for the privilege of using your cash, the bank pays you an interest rate of 0.01%. At the end of the year, they send you a tax form for the $1 single they paid you in interest. But that isn't the real tragedy of option 2. The real tragedy is entirely invisible. It is a concept the financial elite rely on to keep the working class exactly where they are. It is called inflation. And it is the most violent, silent thief in the American economy. Year 1 passes. You haven't touched the money. You are proud of your discipline. You go to the grocery store. You buy the exact same carton of eggs, the exact same loaf of bread, the exact same gallon of milk you always buy. But the total at the register is higher. Not by a lot. Just a few dollars. You don't think much of it. Year 2 passes. You go to the gas station. It costs you an extra $10 to fill up your Honda Civic. The fast food meal that used to cost $8 now costs $12. Year 5 arrives. You open your banking app. The screen still glows green. The numbers still say $10,000. You smile. You did it. You kept it safe. But then you try to go buy a used car. And you realize the car that cost $10,000 5 years ago now costs $15,000. You try to put a down payment on a house, and you realize the starter home that required $10,000 down now requires $20,000. The number in your bank account never changed, but the value of the number was quietly slaughtered. The government printed trillions of new dollars while your money sat in the dark. They diluted the currency. They legally stole 30% of your purchasing power without ever reaching into your pocket. This is the psychological horror of playing by the rules. You did exactly what your parents told you to do. You did exactly what the school system taught you to do. You saved your money. You lived below your means. You were responsible. And you still lost. You look at the screen. You still have 10,000 pieces of paper, but they only buy $7,000 worth of reality. You're standing perfectly still on a treadmill that is moving backwards. You didn't protect your wealth. You just put it in a slow cooker. You realize that hoarding cash doesn't make you rich. It makes you a target for a system designed to slowly bleed you dry. So, what is the alternative? If spending it makes you broke and saving it makes you poor, what is the third option? Option 3. Investing money. You look at the $10,000. You don't hand it over to a landlord to buy a fake lifestyle, and you refuse to let it rot in a savings account while the government prints away its value. You finally realize the greatest lie the American education system ever taught you. They taught you that money is a reward for hard work. They taught you to treat it like a coupon that you trade in for cars, houses, and vacations. But the wealthy do not see money as a reward. They see it as ammunition. They see it as leverage. You choose option 3, the escape. You stop acting like a consumer, and you start acting like an institution. You take your $10,000 and you deploy it. You hire every single one of those $10,000 to be a highly trained employee whose only job is to go out into the economy and recruit more dollars. You open a brokerage account. It takes exactly 4 minutes. You don't try to get rich quick. You don't buy the latest trending crypto coin that a teenager on TikTok is screaming about. You don't day trade. You know the statistics. 90% of day traders lose everything. You aren't here to gamble. You're here to own the casino. You take your $10,000 and you buy a piece of the American economy. You drop it into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. In a single click, you instantly become a partial owner of the 500 most ruthless, profitable, money-printing corporations on the planet. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. When millions of people buy a new iPhone on credit, you get a cut. When someone clicks Add to Cart at 2 in the morning, you get a cut. You're no longer just the guy sweating in the warehouse. You now own a fraction of the warehouse. But then, the ultimate psychological test begins. 6 months pass. The news cycle goes into full panic mode. They say a recession is coming. They say the housing market is collapsing. Wall Street panics, and the stock market drops by 20%. You open your app. Your $10,000 is now worth $8,000. Your stomach drops. Your parents call you and tell you to pull your money out before you lose it all. Your coworkers who bought the expensive cars laugh at you. The old you, the guy stuck in the survival loop, would have panicked. You would have sold at a massive loss, taking the $8,000 and running away, completely traumatized. But not this time. You understand the matrix now. You understand that a market crash isn't a crisis for the wealthy. It is a clearance sale. So you don't sell. Instead, you take $500 from your side hustle and you buy more. You buy the fear. You buy the blood in the streets. You keep aggressively stacking assets while everyone else is liquidating theirs to pay for their leased SUVs. Year 5 arrives. The market has recovered, as it has from every single crash in American history. You open your phone. Through the miracle of compound interest, dividend reinvestment, and consistent monthly contributions, that initial $10,000 didn't just survive. It multiplied. It is now sitting at $45,000. Let's be brutally honest. $45,000 does not make you a billionaire. It does not buy you a private jet to Monaco. You're still driving the dented Honda Civic. You're still living in the cramped apartment. From the outside, your friends who chose option 1 look significantly richer than you. But they are drowning in 30 days of debt, completely paralyzed by the fear of losing their jobs. You, on the other hand, have purchased the rarest luxury in the modern world. You have bought frictionless existence. If your car transmission blows out on the highway today, your heart rate doesn't even spike. You don't panic. You don't beg your boss for extra shifts. You simply transfer a fraction of your capital, pay the mechanic, and go on with your day. The emergency has been downgraded to a minor inconvenience. If your boss yells at you, you don't have to look down at your boots and take it. You have FU money. You have the leverage to walk out the door, knowing you can feed yourself for the next 2 years without lifting a finger. You didn't buy a massive house to impress people you don't even like. You bought your own spine back. You bought your time back. You stopped trading your life energy to build someone else's empire, and you finally laid the first brick of your own. The conclusion. Zoom back in. Come back to the present moment. You're sitting in your room. The neighbor's dog is still barking. The streetlights are flickering outside your window. and the $10,000 is still sitting right there on your glowing screen. You haven't made a move yet. Here is the final, uncomfortable truth about the American economy. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It is a massive, ruthlessly efficient machine, and its only purpose is to separate you from your capital. Every billboard on the highway, every targeted ad on your phone, every zero-down financing plan at the dealership, and every smiling banker offering you a savings account. They are all hunting your $10,000. They want you to choose option 1. They are begging you to inflate your lifestyle so you stay trapped on the hamster wheel, working until you are 75 years old to pay off debts you took on to impress strangers. They profit when you choose option 2. They rely on your fear. They need you to leave your cash in the dark so they can lend it out, build their own empires, and let inflation silently eat your life savings. Option 3 is the glitch in the matrix. When you choose to invest, you stop being the prey. You step out of the consumer class and you forcefully insert yourself into the ownership class. Wealth in America has absolutely nothing to do with how much money you make from your salary. There are doctors making $400,000 a year who are secretly drowning in debt and completely paralyzed by stress. True wealth is entirely about how much you keep and how aggressively you force that money to work for you. That $10,000 is a test. It is the economy asking you, point blank, who are you going to be? Are you going to be a consumer, forever trading your finite, depleting physical energy to build someone else's bloodline? Or are you going to be an owner? Are you going to buy your freedom, buy your spine, and buy back your own time? You can't change the family you were born into. You can't change the fact that the billionaires started on third base. But you have the capital in your hands right now to completely change how your story ends. The board is set. The clock is ticking. And the treadmill is only getting faster. Make your move, if you're ready to wake up. If you want to understand the exact mechanics of how to build leverage, acquire assets, and finally beat the system. Hit the subscribe button. Welcome to Sterling Finance. We will see you in the next one.